Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Bamboo Ceiling Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about, I think, something that all of us has experienced. I feel like we all had that one uncle that didn't have kids, and I think as kids, I never really thought about that, right? But there was always this uncle that hung around, didn't have kids, and as I grew up, now I'm married, don't have kids, and I realize I am that uncle now, right? The uncle that doesn't have kids, the uncle that spends most of his time with his nieces and nephews. And we just kind of wanted to shine some light on that because I know in our culture, it's a big deal to be 30 and not have kids, right? So in our group here, Duck is married, has kids,
Yeah.
right? Ku is not married, no kids, and me, I'm married, no kids, right? So just kind of wanted to talk about that, shed some light on it. Good. We can start with you. Like, how has your journey been, kind of dealing with that?
Yeah, I think there's always a hopelessness every day you have to combat and battle. I think it's like I think when you go through your everyday life, I think there's so much pressure, right? When people, I think they don't attack you. They don't, a lot of people have good intentions of approaching you and be curious about your situation. And I think being in my 30s, not being married is already a layer that I'm struggling with, right? And especially in the Hmong community or even in the Asian community or just our societal norms, I think because we're so collective as a family, so everybody, I think we value family so much that being kind of just I don't know if anomaly is the word, but just not being um a cookie cutter from the community, you feel the pressure, and then adding the layer of having no kids, while you have friends that have kids they're in their teens already,
Yeah.
and you realize,
Duck.
yeah, no, even my nephew, and is already a teen, and
Yeah.
and you struggle with it because I think you should be in this phase of life. You should be married. You should have a house. You should have kids, and that's hard when you feel that hopelessness, and you feel that you're behind everybody, or you feel that you're left out. And you go to family functions and everybody has their kids running around, and you're left there trying to engage with those that just don't have anybody around as well.
Yeah.
And you feel the not that it's anybody's fault, but you feel that you need to at least be engaged because you feel that if you don't, you're the only one in the world that feels this way, that and it goes back to, I guess, the feeling of being neglected or being unloved or being not enough. And those are struggles of being 30 and not having kids. And so those are things that I do wrestle every day with, some days better than others.
Yeah.
But in my healthy, days, I would say that, it's still in the back of my mind. So what about you, Doug?
Man, like, so you and I, we go way back, right? So
Yeah.
then you knew me way before I got married too, and having kids, it's I'm part of that wave of Hmong kids that got married young. I mean, I got married at 18, and so I have kids now. My kids are already like teens, and I will say that I do feel fulfilled. I feel safe. I always say this, right? Like, if I were to die tomorrow, I would be happy because I'm leaving behind like a legacy. My bloodline, my story would forever continue. So my kids will always carry on my name, right? And it's kind of selfish, and it's kind of like the Asian thing, where son, you must carry on the family name, but it's not really that. It's so that when I do go, I feel this peace. I have this peace of knowing that, like, that's not the end of my story.
Yeah,
I-
like
I
there's
feel
a sense of security.
Security is it's a lot of security. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that reminds me of my parents were I think they don't say it out to you, but
Yeah.
they want to leave this world knowing that they do have some like grandkids
Yeah.
that will follow you and whatnot, so that I think I don't, as much as you don't want them to worry for you,
Yeah.
right? Because they value family so much that I feel like they worry for me every day. And they don't have that sense of security, how you're saying,
Yeah.
because family is such, so valued in our, community.
Culture.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that piece that my parents have
Yeah.
through us already that they worry about me so much, right? Because they know that if they didn't have kids, they wouldn't have that peace, that sense of security.
Right.
And I think that's why my parents are always on me, dude. Like, I swear, me and my wife, we've been married for 10 years now, right? And the first probably 5 years, I didn't really think about it. I'm like, it's just not happening, and I won't worry about it. But 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, now it's been 10 years, and we're not able to have kids. And dude, I have eaten every mung chua,
Yeah.
drinking, like eating
Every
every
herbal.
pill, every herbal. Like my friend C, shout out to C.
Yeah.
They own a herbal shop, right? And they've given us medicine and yeah. But it's not happening. And I think there is a sense of urgency, right? Because I'm getting older. I'm 38 now. So in Hmong years, I'm way over the hill.
You're past your prime. Yeah.
I'm past my prime. And so there is a sense of like, man, if I don't have kids in the like upcoming years, it's not going to happen, And I think for a long time I struggled with that. And just thinking about it right now is kind of hard because I think I've kind of put it on the back burner because I have 23 nephews and nieces, right? And so I spent my whole married life just kind of filling them in, like, and then to fill that void a little bit, right? So I would fill a couple in that really like become close to me, right? And so like I would hang out with them for like a couple years, but then in the 10 years, I've seen them grow up. So I've gone through a set of siblings every 3 years, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do when I run out of nieces and nephews to fill that void? Am I going to be like that Hmong guy that wants to divorce his wife because she can't have kids for him, right? Or I don't know, right? Those are just kind of like the thoughts that go through my mind,
I think we're all unique, right? Because we all have like a different story to tell, and I'm sure the audience can relate to. Where, for me, like you said in the beginning, I'm the one that has kids, and Gu, you're obviously in a position where, you can have kids, you're just it's just not happening, and then you guys are having a hard time conceiving,
Yeah.
And then you also have the other people who have too many kids.
I know.
Y'all gotta stop having kids. Like, it's funny, right? Because like the ones that really want kids can't have it, and the ones that maybe shouldn't be having too many kids are like popping them.
Okay, off topic a little bit, but there's an uncle that we all kind of know that has more than 12 kids.
Damn, one wife?
That's a lot of kids.
Multiple wives?
Now,
Okay,
right? But we all three know him, right?
Oh yeah. I know. Okay, I know.
But I just remember having a conversation. I'm like, damn, God, like, really?
You blessed this
like,
dude? Yeah.
This dude has like over 12 kids. You can't have like, I can't have one.
Yeah.
Like, man, like just this is crazy. But it's crazy.
I think you said a key word there where like I guess we consider it a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Whether you believe in God or not, but we consider kids to be a blessing because they do carry on your legacy.
Yeah.
and whatnot. I think what you're saying about growing older year by year, right? And reality is hitting you right in the face, right?
Yeah.
And I think there was a quote this week where I saw, and it became reality where, you know, you can avoid reality, but the consequences, you can't avoid the consequences of reality. And I think that's a thing that for those that don't have kids face every day, right? I think you can avoid it. On good days, you're good because you can have fillers, right? To fill the gap, right?
Yeah.
Your nieces and nephew. But in back of my mind, we grew up with the intentionality of having a family, not wanting to be the uncle. So that pressure of what society looks like when you're older is added on you, right? That adds in another layer. And so I do think that right now, as you're in your 30s, the should-haves, or, you know, you should have this, it weighs on you because right now, as you're getting older, how you're saying it, you know, it seems a little less, you know, possible now than a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. And those consequences are hitting you, you know, stronger even if you're trying to, you know, avoid that feeling. Right. And
Right.
and there's the hopelessness in that,
There
you know, but, you know, I also want to turn this light too. Like, I do feel hopeless, right? But I also feel like there's benefits of not having kids too. I've always grew up really independent, and that's why maybe I don't have a family right now. But I got to enjoy a lot in life. You know, I think, Doug, you said like you had kids at an early age, right? So your freedom of, you know, your individuality or just, you know, who you are was not stripped from you, but you had to be responsible more at an early age, right? And I think for me, I got to experience a lot of things. Like I went to school in Ohio. I've done a lot of things. I'm still having a lot of goals and dreams and visions I'm chasing and whatnot. But I think there's some. I think it depends on what we value. But I think without relationships or kids having, you know, leaving your legacy, it is tough.
Yeah,
know?
It goes back to the whole the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like having kids too. I mean, you're shackled, you're tied down. I mean, a lot of comedians say that the moment you have kids, you flush your dreams and hopes down the drain, the toilet, right? And it's in a way it's kind of true because because I had kids at an early age. I missed out on all my 20s, so I spent my 20s being a parent versus being a young, dumb, goofy kid, you know, going through life and its trials and tribulations, learning and exploring and messing around, you know, like, so I've missed out on a lot of relationships with girls, guys, and whatnot, right? So I never got to explore, and then I'm a little envious and jealous of my friends like you and Kelvin. Shout out to Kelvin, you know, like the ones that are single and living that bachelor life, dude. Like, you know, trust me, there are moments when I think about it, I'm like, dang, like, you know, you are a little jealous, you know, and so like having kids. I feel like you guys remember when we used to play tags as kids, right? And there's always home. They're like, hey, that tree is home. And there's always that sense of security. Like, if that dude's coming at me, I know if I get to that tree, I'm safe. Having a family is kind of like that. You know, at the end of the day, no matter what I go through, when I come home, I have that sense of security. Like, there's always people at home waiting for me. Yeah. And I'm never alone. Right. But then a part of me too, like you said, you know, I feel like I robbed myself out of my youth.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go to Laos and make up for it.
No,
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So I think as I'm listening to you, robbing yourself from your youth, right? Or your independence or your freedom, right? In life, does that outweigh your home base of those moments during family gathering or during Christmas gatherings or during Thanksgiving? Because for me, I think on the flip side, I think I struggle with those months the most.
You'd rather have the home base, right?
Because I think there are, you know, throughout the year, right? Throughout, you know, just every year, I think I go out throughout the year pretty well, like, but when it hits those
Holidays?
holiday
Oh.
months where everybody has their family and they
Yeah.
have a purpose that they're
Right,
giving
right.
to and for.
Yeah.
And even though, I do have my own, immediate family, not, myself, but I struggle with it
Right.
because I can't find my identity in it because everybody's identity is solely tied
To their family, right?
to their family. And I think, for me, I always have to think outside of myself and be like, how can I be a blessing to others so that I can avoid this feeling of not being so isolated from the world? Does that make sense?
No, I hear you.
And so does that outweigh? I know that's a long question, but does that outweigh your freedom?
My holiday bills outweighs yours because I
Okay.
have to buy more gifts.
Sure,
but
I give you that.
Well,
I give you that.
Actually, you know what? Maybe not because you have to buy a lot more now too because
I
you have
know.
to buy for your nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
So like, and I know you have a bunch of nieces and nephews, and I'm sure you pay a lot. But I said that as a joke. But yeah, like I see what you mean. Because I think those would be the toughest times because I think for me those are the most memorable moments.
Yeah.
Like no matter how shitty 2020 is, I know that by come Christmas time or Thanksgiving, for a moment there, it takes me away from reality or from the chaos, and
it is worth it.
it's
for
worth
you.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I see what you mean. I completely agree.
Growing up, well, in my 20s, I didn't think that it was worth it. Like, I always told myself I would never give up my clubbing days and my bar days.
Yeah.
Right? I would never give that up to have kids at 18, right?
Yep.
And I think the older I get, I think it was always because it was under the impression that in the future I would have kids, right? Like when I'm 30.
Oh, you had it in the bank.
Yeah,
you
I
were
had
just
it
like,
in the
yeah,
bank. So
yeah.
like it never, I never thought of it as I would rather give up these moments to have kids because I always thought if I don't get it out of my system in the 20s that I might go to Laos or Thailand, right? In my 30s or 40s. And like I ran under that motive.
Yeah,
right?
I see what you're saying.
But now that I am 38, I would give it all up.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. I would give all that up just to have a kid at 18, whatever age, right? Because I always imagined playing sports with my kid. Like I always imagined being able to play football, being able to dominate him in basketball.
Right. Talk some shit.
Yeah. But, now as I get older, that's starting to kind of go away. But,
because like for me, right? Because I don't want to just talk about like the cons of having kids early. I kind of want to touch on like some of the pros too, right? Like so because I started kids, I started having kids at an early age. Now I'm that guy. That's like 34 and I have a 15-year-old, right? Like we could literally walk through the mall and like pick up girls together. As long as they're over 18 for me,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a good idea, but you know what I mean?
If
like,
your wife were to ever pass away.
Yeah, like given the circumstances. No, but so one of the pros of like this is what I enjoy most about having kids, and something I wish you both would someday be able to do too is because you become the painter now. You get to work out all your flaws with your kids, right? So whatever you grew up not having, now you get to make up for it by doing it to your kids, if that makes sense. Like because we didn't receive the same type of love from our dads, now we get to do it to our kids and make up. We feel that void, sometimes like a therapist, by helping you out, they kind of help them with their own issues.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, like by giving of yourself,
Yeah.
you heal
yourself, right?
the void in yourself.
Yeah, and then you become, like I said, the artist. Now you get to paint your own picture. You get to decide how life goes for you, and raising your kids. It's a task, dude. It's not easy. I'm not gonna say that it's all like.
Yeah, like, but I also think, man, like, as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, dang, how privileged are we as Asian communities that even us being isolated, we still have our families to lean back on.
Yeah.
What about those that grew up in
Right.
that individualistic society that hates their families
Right.
or don't have a family, right? That they don't have anybody to lean back on in those Thanksgiving dinners, and now people are having Friendsgiving,
Right.
But it's so it I don't know if it fully can compensate for having a family Thanksgiving meal.
I think you can hide it all you want, right? Even for the people, like especially for like what you said, the people that grows up in a society or a culture that doesn't value family, and so they're kind of alone. You can hide it with like the fake smiles, the fake bar pictures and club pictures, and Friendsgiving. But I'm sure at the end of the day, when they turn off the lights and they're about to go to bed, I'm sure these demons attack them too.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there's a lot of advantages of not having kids early, and not having because you do have your freedom, right? You do get to follow after, chase your dreams, and doing that, and I think that's good. I do think the key in this is, I think the thing that keeps me going is having rich relationships. That keeps me going. That helps me and is hopeful, because that does help me, put things in perspective and not feel so hopeless in those worst moments. And I think that is something that I think we should look forward to. And I think in your case, Apple, I think there can be other options laid out, right? In my case as well, if that ever. But I think rich relationships, honestly, has helped me along the way to fill the void of being isolated and not part of the Asian world or the Hmong community or whatnot. I think that helps me knowing that, hey, like there's some security of, even though I don't have my own family, that I still have some relationships that are deep, and that helps me, feel a little hope on my journey by myself.
You know what the three of us share in common? Laos. Laos is the solution to all of our problems, dude. I swear, dude. No. I get to make up my 20s. You get your kid.
No.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
No, I know why.
I wouldn't lower my standard there.
I'm just messing around. Yeah.
I think one of the joyous things in my life is the relationships that I have with my nieces and nephews, right? And being able to be there for them when their parents can't be, because their parents love them, but their parents have 5 kids and parents can't always be there. And that's where I can kind of jump in and take care of some of those responsibilities. Like if I had my own kids, I don't think I would be able to fill in the gaps there. And not only that, I think me and my sisters, we didn't always have a good relationship, but some of it's been healed because they see how much I love their kids, right? Yeah. And I never did it. I never loved their kids to try to fix
a broken relationship.
Relationships or anything. It just happened that way, right? Yeah. And so without, if I had kids, I don't think I would have been able to do that. And so those are like one of the things that I cherish most about my life is my relationships with my nieces and nephews, and then in that being able to mend relationships with my sisters and them. So just looking back at it, if I didn't have kids, or if I had kids, then I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I just want the audience to know that, like, it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in life, whether you're me or Goo or Apple, and giving your circumstances, like, it's okay, right? There are some pros and cons. Like, it's not the end all be all. Just because you're 36 and don't have any kids yet, it doesn't mean that you are lesser than I am, or that I'm more than you. We're all equal. I wouldn't like be too hard on myself if for the ones, I'm speaking for the ones that don't have kids yet, don't be too hard on yourself, that it's okay. Yeah. Like ultimately the message that is that it's okay. Your time will come, and there are different options, this isn't it. Don't hang your head down and don't be all like, oh, all shucks, poor me, It's okay.
There's so many Hmong kids out there
that can be needs to be
adopted. Like they're in the foster care, and I feel like Hmong people don't adopt kids. Mm-hmm. I'm not blanketing all Hmong people, but in general, Hmong people don't really adopt. And so let that be an option. It is for me and my wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for sure, it's an option for us, but I think that's needed. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think I do feel like, we need to take the pressure off of, ourselves as a societal norm, because we grow up in such a bicultural lifestyle with, America and our, native or homeland or whatnot. But I do think taking off the societal norms will help, and that pressure and just build the relationships that you have, kind of nurture those relationships that you have, because they will help you along the way to whether you do adoption or you do other have other options of having kids and whatnot. So kind of nurturing what you have.
Yeah, don't let other people dictate what and where you should be, right? Because even for me, I have kids already, and I'm still getting yelled at for not having enough. Okay, I still get harped on for like, why don't you have one more? Why don't you have one more? So you're never gonna be enough in other people's eyes. So don't stress too much. Don't worry about what people think and say. Hey, as long as you're happy with yourself, you're good.
Yeah. So you are enough.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of the Bamboo Ceiling, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at #TheBambooCeiling. Until next time, use your voice.